Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are back with Haley Carvajal, and I'm sad to have just learned it is our last show. We've been on together for so many months. She became a friend, and she is amazing at what she does. We've had some great conversations, and she's here still helping so many overcome things they never thought were possible and overcome fear, stagnation, and she's just helping people improve their lives. Let me have her introduce herself with, of course, helping people align with their soul's purpose. Haley, tell us what you do at 5 Steps to Alignment.
Yeah, so I have a gift. I recognize my gift as a multidimensional seer, medium, and by connecting to the highest sources of light and consciousness, I can perceive psychological patterns in another and know the source from which it stems, as well as exactly how to help them shift it. And so I am here to reconnect you to your divinity, to your sovereignty, and so that you can be your authentic self and live in the highest and best, most easeful life possible, because it's absolutely possible.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Always a pleasure to have you here. And sad that we won't be doing this much longer, but again, we'll connect again in the future. But you've helped so many and you continue to as a mentor, as a coach. Tell us first and foremost, how can we reach you and where?
Yeah, so actually I just upgraded my website, and it's haleycarbajal.com. So you can find me at haleycarbajal.com, and on Instagram now it is at Haley Carbajal Official.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And the types of services you offer are immense. I mean, could you
Yeah, so
share a little bit about?
spiritual mentorship and coaching. So if you're finding that you're stuck, finding that you're stagnant, you've applied all the spiritual guru teaching, still not working, that's what I'm there for. I also have a very the word that came forward was exquisite, a very exquisite energy healing background. So I know that's not exactly the right word, but it came through. But I have a very, very refined energy healing background. And so there's this beautiful dance between the 3D strategy aspect of coaching and mentoring, and then also the like 5D energetic frequency aspect of energy healing. And so by merging those two, we get the most optimal outcome.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And for today, my girl in red, what did you kind of want to talk about for everyone?
Yeah, so I actually wanted to talk about the void that everybody feels, So everyone has this feeling of void, like, who am I? What is the purpose of being here? Happiness seems to be so fleeting.
Yeah.
What am I doing here? All of these questions we all have. And so science has come to this new discovery of what the most powerful frequency is to leave the human body, and it isn't love.
Mm.
It isn't love, right? So according to this new project called the Spain Scale of Emotion, they took 25,000 people and put them in a room and specifically measured the emotions and their frequency. And they were so specific with this that they were able to tell the difference in a frequency level of despair and frustration, right? Just as happiness and elation. So they were very, very, very specific, right? And so the highest frequency, the most powerful frequency that a human can emit, is authenticity,
Mm.
being oneself
True self. Okay.
fully, completely, and I hate to use this cheesy word, but honestly, unapologetically, just being oneself, authenticity. So When we are our truest selves, we are honoring ourselves. We are honoring what we desire to do when we desire to do it without having other people's perspectives, opinions, or judgments on us influence our decisions. Then that void is gone. It is gone. And we've all had moments in our life like this when we've done something that felt super authentic, like putting on something that was like a direct reflection of the way that you were feeling inside, or when you went on a spontaneous trip, or when you had a conversation with a friend that was like a breath of fresh air because you were just being you.
Mm-hmm.
Go back temporarily in your mind in those moments of true authenticity. There was no void. You were fulfilled. You were happy. You felt complete. Now, we also, there's this amazing channeler, Daryl Anka. This is more for the spiritual type.
Okay.
But he channels Bashar, which is a consciousness in the multidimensional planes. And we have, based on this, we have 7 primary needs to live and exist in this 3D physical reality. So physical needs, right? So the first one is obvious, and they're in order of importance. Okay. So the first one is obviously air. We have a collective agreement that we cannot live without air. The
Yeah.
second one is water. We cannot go a long period of time without having water. Surprisingly, the next one is sleep.
Ooh.
Sleep is actually more important than food. Our body can go longer without food, and even without a space of psychosis,
Hmm.
longer than we can sleep. Sleep is like third priority. So if you're not sleeping or you're not choosing to sleep, take a look at that. It might not be that you have a mental health illness. It might be that you just
Okay.
require more sleep.
Yeah.
The fourth one then is food. The fifth one is shelter.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, we need shelter that's conducive to a living environment. Sometimes that's not always a house, although we live in America. And so it's amazing that we have this huge, grand opportunity of homes to live in, right?
Yeah.
The sixth one is connection. So we need to have a connection to something, whether that be an animal, whether that be a human, whether that be with what we call creator, God, source, universe, spirit. We have
Mm-hmm.
to have a connection with something, something that reflects back to us who we are and gives us stimulus feedback about who we are, what we're doing here, what is the purpose, right? And then the last one, that is the top 7 encompassed in this top 7 priorities, and to exist in this 3D reality, this physical existence, is also authenticity. So now it's not like just it's obviously
Genuine.
not like
Mm-hmm.
air. We won't die instantly, not being our authentic selves, which is why it's a little bit insidious, so to say, but it is a killing of the spirit. It is a killing. It's a slow, and I don't mean to sound like really dark and dense, but
But
it is a slow killing of who you are. And so
mm-hmm.
you fill the void with things like relationships, or with sex, or with Netflix, or with food, or with scrolling, right? But then it's like this temporary fleeting feeling because it's not the sex that makes you happy. It's not the relationship that makes you happy. It's not the amazing food that makes you happy. It's not even the good conversation that makes you happy. It is knowing that you are in alignment, being your authentic self, not caring how it's going to affect others or how. And it's actually, I know how that sounds. So here's the thing. You are handcrafted, have a spiritual, divine blueprint, personality blueprint that actually effortlessly
Hmm.
connects like a puzzle piece with everybody in your life. And by not being your authentic self, you are creating this false, malleable version of yourself with puzzle pieces that aren't actually in alignment with you, which is why
Oh,
you feel that discord, which is why you feel that disalignment or this pain or this, I don't feel like I belong here. But when you be your authentic self, who you are unapologetically without concerning yourself with the way people receive you, because you're not responsible for the way
mhm.
that people receive you. You may have little influence over that, but you have zero control over that. So you're sacrificing a part of yourself and who you are for something that isn't even real in their own head, in your own head, right? Because they're just going through their own filter of perception of reality anyway. But when you step out and be brave enough to be your authentic self without concerning yourself of others, then naturally you will find that perfect puzzle piece that is you, and you will effortlessly fit
Ah,
with people and things and places and circumstances in your life. Now, this is a process, right? Because we've all been told to be this version of ourselves, and so there has to be a little bit of disconnecting, detangling from the old version of us and from the old people who liked this inauthentic, malleable version of who we once were. So we have to detach from that. And that's the scary part, releasing all that we know, because there's security and stability there, even if it's false, even if it's like a very low resolution of it, right? But then
mhm.
in that detaching, you find out who you are, which is why isolation is a huge part of the understanding thyself process, because you can't have all this external stimulus to tell you who you are. You need to find it out for yourself. And then in that third stage of actually just being you, then your actual, real, authentic tribe and people who don't expect you to be anything other than just you show up, and then you can expand in that authenticity. And that is where, and this is not just, oh, this is nice fantasy, this is nice to talk about, oh, it must be nice that she can go live as her authentic self. But I had prices to pay. I
Yeah.
had people that I lost. I had some serious doubts and questions about who I was and why I was here. So I'm just on the other side of it. I'm being an example for you of what's possible if you actually apply these methods. It's available for you too, or you would not even be able to perceive this conversation. You would not even be able to witness this conversation. You aligned with it for a reason, right? So if you are at this place where you're like, oh, this sounds really nice. And so two questions are actually coming up that I'm hearing. So number one is, before I jump into that, number one
Mm.
is, how do I know that I'm being my authentic self? How do I know? How do I know it's really me? Based on how you're feeling. Our feelings or emotions are great leading indicators of who we are being. And all pain is resisting the natural self. So if you feel any pain, if you feel any confusion, if you feel any, then you're trying to make your own self malleable into something that you're not, right? But when you're in a space of, I feel good, I feel whole, I feel content, I feel complete, that's how you know. If you can leave a conversation
Mhm.
like, I showed up as my best, I did my best, and that's all that matters, that's how you know you were your authentic self,
I
right?
love that. Yep.
Eddie, so it's the state of being, it's the emotion that you're experiencing. So if you don't think that being your authentic self is easy, it is because you have rules and programs that you've adopted from other people that tell you otherwise. That's why there's resistance. That's why there's fear. But on the other side of fear, as we all know, is your happiness, is your bliss, is your joy, is your freedom, right? So if you don't think that it's possible for you, it's not because that's the law, that's
Yeah.
universal law, that's highest truth. It's just simply because you have fears and doubts that are coming up to the surface to show you where you're not free so that you can be your authentic self. And that in and of itself is a gift, because how are you supposed to know where you're not free if you can't identify it and call it out? So it is so important, not only for your mental health and emotional health, but also for your physical health as well, for you to be your authentic, true self. And those who cannot honor you for being your authentic self, it's not because there's anything wrong with you. It's because they have an image of you, a memorized version of you in their head. And
Yeah.
when go outside those lines, you're stirring up those incongruent feelings within themselves, or you're challenging their certainty, but that's also not your responsibility.
Yeah.
Actually being the light, being a light in the universe, being a beacon of light and hope for others actually means that you trigger the hell out of them, because your light shows them also where they are not free, and you are giving them the gift, the opportunity to take a look at what's not working in their lives just by being you. You know, if you want change in the world, be like that quote. If you want change in the world, be the change that you wish to see in the world, right?
Hey,
It
say that
all,
again. If you say it again.
if you want, this is so not right, but
No, I get it.
if you want change in the world, be the change that you wish to see in the world. Because just by being a living example of your own happiness, of your own authentic self, of even your own sadness, or even your own insecurities, by being and embodying that without putting self-judgment or
Yeah.
allowing other judgments to infringe on that, you give other people permission to do and be the same, which then collectively makes the earth a much better place to live. Could you imagine if we were all just being ourselves? Could you imagine if we were all just being who we were? Then it would playing mind games or psychological games, and we have to one up one another. It wouldn't be any of that. We'd all be happy and whole, and think about if we weren't focused on frustration and anger and what's wrong with the world, what we could actually do with our time and with our energy if we were whole.
I like that. Whole.
Yes. And I know that I'm like talking a lot. I'm very
No.
passionate about this subject. But you were like, going back to what I was saying, you were handcrafted for a specific purpose, for a specific frequency, your own state of being. And if everybody just decided that they were going to be their authentic selves, the puzzle would create and fit within itself. Like, just like for a very basic example, let's say we have a chef, like a cook in a restaurant, and a baker, right? Maybe the baker's true authentic self doesn't really like baking. They just took it up because that's what their mom did. And then the chef doesn't really like to like cook meat. It doesn't really find fun in vegetables, but likes the chemistry of baking. But because they're so like, oh, this is what I was told to do, I need to stay doing this. But if they were just like, you know what? I'm going to honor that maybe I am a chef, but I like baking, so I'm going to go do that. And the baker was like, you know what? I really don't like baking. I want to make an amazing vegetable salad and work at a 5-star restaurant, and switched there. Then the pieces would fit in themselves. Then they would like, it's like, if you, would you rather construction? Would you rather carpentry? Right? Whatever is for you, the pieces will fill themselves. There are people who are out there wishing that they could do what you do, while you're wishing you could do what somebody else was doing. And if we all just lined up in a way where we honored our own instincts, all of the pieces, all of the roles, everything would fit into place.
Wouldn't that be perfect? Wouldn't
If
it be, or couldn't it be? Shouldn't it be? It can.
It can. It can, just by honoring who we are, good, bad, and all, without self-judgment, without caring what other people are going to think, because they're going to think what they want anyway. Even when you're in a space of wanting to People please. Even then, what you do for them in the space of people pleasing usually isn't even enough.
Got
They
it.
always want more. So why are you giving more and more of yourself, hiding that place of who you really are to serve somebody that can't even honor you?
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you stand strong, and here's the thing, this sometimes is hard concept for people to understand. By no longer, for this example, by no longer people pleasing and standing up and being who you are, you might think you're causing this other person pain, when in reality, by detaching, you're giving them an opportunity to stop the behavior. Because even their siphoning from you or taking more from you than what they need or require, you're
Mm-hmm.
also hurting them, because you're not giving them the opportunity to find their own sovereignty. You're not giving them the opportunity to self-reflect. You're not giving them the opportunity to learn something about themselves or how to be dependent on their own. You're actually
Yeah.
hurting them by
Hurting them by thinking
yeah.
you're helping them by not. Yeah.
So that's why you have to be you. You have to be you. The world is hungry for authenticity. The world is hungry for you. And it's gonna feel a little bit foreign at first. You're gonna get resistance at first, especially with the people that are close in your life. But rejection is protection. If you lose somebody by being your authentic self, it was never a loss.
Yeah. You're right.
Because if you have to put on a face, put on a mask just to please somebody, you're not honoring them, because I'm sure they would want the real version of you, even if it's at an unconscious level, and you're not honoring yourself. I mean, think about somebody that that maybe you don't like, but you respect because they just say things as they are. They're just themselves, and you're just choosing not to participate in their banter, or you're not choosing to participate in their version of reality. You may not like them, you may not want to have a conversation with them, you might not want to run into them straight, but you
True.
respect them, because it's like, okay, well, at least I know who you are, so this way I know I don't want to interact with you. Right?
Yeah.
But if putting on this half version or diluted version of you, you're actually not honoring the other person, because if you were the authentic you, would they really want to be
Mm-hmm.
in connection with you? So both of you are fragmented. Both of you can feel that. And where that fragmentation happens is where that gap for that void is available.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Wow. You are just always on a roll, full of such information. Now, do you prepare your shows ahead of time, or you just like go with the flow and it just comes to you naturally like this? Really?
100% go with the flow.
Love it.
100%. I always ask, what do they need to hear? What is it that they need to hear? And I wrote that. Sometimes I write things down, sometimes I don't. But this I literally wrote down in about 5 minutes before we jumped on.
I love it.
It just came through. That's because this has been my life's work. I don't need to prepare a slide deck or something. Like, this is everything that I've been focusing on probably since 15. And so that's why I can just come out like that.
Yeah. Well, I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We still have just 3 minutes left of the show today. And unfortunately, I hate to say that we're saying goodbye, but till next time, how did you kind of want to sum things up for today?
I always like to take my time. I like to have a valid thought, a valid, meaningful message, not just something. I would say stop trying to figure stuff out. Stop trying to figure and pre-calculate and manufacture things. The more control that you try to have over things, life, you, others, the less control you actually have. There is already a built-in structure and current that is connected to your life. And you are swimming upstream every single time you resist it, every single time you try to manufacture or pre-calculate. Follow the thread of what makes you happy authentically, organically. Follow that instinct, that intuition, that desire, that passion, and don't try to figure it out. Don't take away the magic with asking too many questions. You
Yep.
already have a built-in structure. When we say surrender, we're not surrendering by giving up. We're not surrendering by giving up control. What you're doing is you're surrendering to the structure, to the control that's already built within your life's blueprint.
Yeah.
And so just follow that, because when you're not following that, that's when you're in, and I trust me, I know, because I used to be the hustle, grind, push, you got to push yourself to the max, and in ways you do, but in healthy, high vibrational ways. Just surrender to the structure, to the control that's already built within your blueprint. And when you can't do that, know that it's only because there is a limiting belief blocking you. And that limiting belief is the anchor that you could either let go of and release, or you can continue to hold on to and find yourself in a cyclical pattern in your life.
Got it.
But
Well,
life should be easeful. It should be easeful. It is easeful. It's available to you.
got it. Well,
If you
thank
need
you
help,
again. How do
yeah,
we
if you need help
contact
with
you?
that, if you need help with that, HaleyCarbajal.com or Haley Carbajal Official on social medias.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Haley. Pleasure having you here. Wishing you the best of everything, and I'm sure we'll connect again soon.
I would love that. Yes, Jill.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic day, and always a pleasure. Thank you for teaching me and inspiring me and all of us today. As always, thank you. Bye, sweetheart.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.